Hi everybody, and welcome back again to the Matrix Game of Life. Today we're going to talk some more about cycles, in particular the so-called evolution of the Earth and humanity. But before we get into it, I'd like to have my artificial intelligence say a word or two. I'll be right back.
Hello, and welcome to the Matrix Game of Life. It is the generosity of viewers like you that makes this channel possible. If you find the information provided as being beneficial, please send a thank you gift. It will be much appreciated. A PayPal link can be found in the description section of all videos. May your Matrix experience be one of health and of prosperity.
Again, hello, and truly, welcome back. Tonight, we're going to talk some more about the cycles of the Earth and of humanity. Now, these cycles have everything to do with what can be called an evolution of the Earth and of its component part that we call humanity. Before I really get into it, as is my custom, I have a couple of things I'd like to say. I've said before in my videos that when I'm done producing a video, then loading it up to YouTube, usually waiting for the closed captioning to be interpreted. And once all that YouTube production end of it is done and the closed captioning is in place, then I'll go ahead and watch the video. Now, I wait until I have it up and posted before I watch it, because I've learned that if I watch the video, if I proof the video before I upload it to YouTube, many times I would end up deleting the whole thing because I didn't like how it appeared, or how it sounded, or how I worded something, and all that did was cost me a whole bunch of hours of doing it all over again. I'm not doing that anymore. But in the last video I did, in part 1 of the Earth and humanity, that was part 1. This is part 2, by the way. Part 2, same subject. When I went and watched my video, I was very tempted to just take it down. Because I sounded really scattered, like talking about things all over the place. Some of that is necessary in that everything is interconnected and everything is linked together. Everything plays its own part. But I didn't take it down. I left it up, and I rationalized that by saying to myself, well, as bad as the video might appear to me, maybe somebody out there will still be able to pick something up, glean some little pertinent piece of information that is helpful. So, though I didn't like it, I left it up. Okay, just to show you how my crazy logic works. Now, one of the things I didn't like about the video was that everything that I said sounded very confusing. I knew what I was talking about, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't come out of my mouth sounding confusing. Like I said, I'm not the greatest orator in the world. So I sat back in my chair after that was all over, and I turned off my mind, so to speak, closed my eyes, with the last thought being, okay, what to do? And then I just sat there with that. It didn't take long until finally, it's as though like the mind starts speaking to me, and it said like, hey, it's very, very difficult to take a very complex, convoluted, intricate subject and make it simple. And I went, yeah, okay. And it's true. For example, I'm really bad at mathematics. I don't like numbers. I have a hard time even remembering birthdays. I had to make a list of the people in my family, their names and their birth dates, and then hang it on the refrigerator so I would know when it's somebody's birthday. Then I forget to look at the refrigerator, and I'll end up missing a birthday. But I've never been good with remembering numbers. I don't know why that is. I really don't. But it is what it is. In my last video, when we talked about the 4 yugas of the earth, another way to say that would be the 4 ages of the earth. I prefer the word yuga because ages is pretty generic. It can have a broad view of what an age means. Yuga is specific. When we were talking about those, I had a very difficult time with the numbers. And I typed the notes that I had the numbers written on. Everything on my notes I could read perfectly well and know and remember them, but when I start reading numbers, boom, something shorts out. I don't know why that is. I really don't care. I don't try to figure it out. It's been that way since I started school, when I was just a little boy. And it's been that way all these years of my life. Has it caused problems? Yeah, at times. Especially I owned a business at one time, and naturally I had to do a lot of the accounting. Well, you can imagine what a pain that was for me. But I did it anyhow. I got through it. So I went today, I made new notes, very simple notes that even I can read. And I'm going to go over those numbers once again. But I stand by what I said in my last video. It's nice to know the numbers because it gives us some perspective of how huge these numbers can get. And these numbers that for our purposes represent solar or mortal years get huge. Into the hundreds of trillions of years. That can be confusing just dealing with the numbers. And I said in my last video that it's more important, this is my opinion, it's more important to grasp the concept of cycles and the concept of yugas without really worrying too much about how long a cycle lasts. It's the concepts that things are cyclic, yugas are cyclic, the earth is cyclic, we are cyclic, the universe is cyclic, everything's cyclic. The numbers or the time, or should I say times plural, associated with the universe or a cluster of galaxies or a galaxy or a solar system or a planet or us or the earth, numbers pertain to all of them. But the numbers only represent lengths of time. And those lengths of time, as I said, in my opinion, are not nearly as important to memorize or to grasp or as the concepts that those numbers, those lengths of time, the concepts that they represent. So I'm trying to take something here that is very intricate and convoluted and can be confusing, and I'm trying to make it simple. I like simplicity with clarity. And I think that if I remember this mindset of simplicity with clarity, I should begin to make better videos that are more understandable. So that's what I did. Now, I said all that by way of introduction to get to what we're going to be talking about, and that is the main topic is cycles. The subtopic is yugas, yuga singular, yugas with an S, plural. This is part 2 of what we started in the last video. And hopefully, I think this will be a shorter video because I'm not going to get so into the weeds about things. I'm going to try to make them a lot more simple. So, the topic of yugas. Yugas, as I said, are also, we can also call them ages, but I like the word yuga. The word yuga and the whole concept of a yuga cycle and different yugas comes out of the Vedas. They're ancient Hindu Vedic concepts. I know from hundreds of hours of studying Vedic writings that the Hindus and like the Tibetan Buddhists are both, when it comes to time, they are excellent with their numbers. I trust their numbers. You got to put your trust somewhere sometimes. Trust, but verify. I think President Ronald Reagan coined that little term. Trust, but verify. And when I cross-checked the concepts and the numbers with other writings from other religions, and, you know, religious systems and other sources of the esoteric, you know, whether it be Chinese or Japanese, even Korean, all through the Middle East, the Far East, and every continent on Earth, actually. The concepts and the numbers held up because it's like it was global knowledge. I myself, I have no recollection of ever being told that a manifest universe is manifest for 311, well, let me look at my notes. A universe on all levels. A universe is manifest for 311 trillion and 40 million years. I can't remember ever being told that. But these numbers pretty much, give or take 5 trillion years here and there, these numbers pretty much hold up against the ancient and some contemporary texts and manuscripts from all over the world. Manuscripts that were written thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. From all over the world. Manuscripts that I trust. Another thing that I do when I learn something that doesn't come to me as insight, as like a download of knowledge and data about this or about that or about this or about that. It could be anything. When I glean knowledge from manuscripts, from texts, or even by word of mouth, that I might hear somebody say something, maybe on another YouTube channel. I check those things out. And my final check, this ought not surprise you when you consider how much I've already talked about this. One of my big final checks is, how does it stack up against biblical scripture and text? There's nothing I've said to you since I've started this channel that doesn't, it jives with even biblical scripture and text. The casual person who studies the Bible might not see it that way, but the truth of the matter is that most ardent Bible scholars study only the Bible. They rarely, if ever, also study other religious systems, let alone manuscripts written by personages that lived in the tops of the mountains of Tibet tens of thousands of years ago. I'm not trying to sound puffed up about that. It's just my being. It's my dream. It's what's happened in the course of what we call my life. long story short there, so yeah, just about everything that I talk about, in the end, it is congruent with biblical scripture. There's a lot of good esoteric, metaphysical, spiritual information in that book. But for the most part, in organized religions, even if they use a Bible, it goes totally overlooked. I was always one to ask questions. What does this mean? What does that mean? That can't mean that. What does this mean? And I'd look, and I'd ponder it, and I just dug into it until I went, oh, that's what that means. Later on in my life, within the past 10 years or so, I learned that, yeah, what I understood about what that sentence or verse means, yeah, it means that, but it means it on this level. But it has another meaning on this level. That's called a scalar teaching. Mystical, esoteric knowledge is scalar. You can know it at one level and it's correct. It's also correct on another level, which is a higher level. It's correct on a higher level. And that does not make the lower level understanding null and void. They all work together. Everything is interconnected. Talking about yugas, the ages of the earth. To me, is extremely interesting. If I were the type of person that said, well, yeah, okay, so what about yugas? So what? How does that help me? I'm not like that. But I can state that having the knowledge of the cycles and the yugas of the earth and humanity fits into another part of the puzzle that together make a higher concept that will help my life. Because it expands my mind, so to speak, the ability to absorb new and higher vibrational frequency information. And I'll go, oh, wow, yeah. And I'll see how that fits together with something else that was like revealed to me. And when the big picture starts coming into focus, it gets really exciting. In fact, when it just is still kind of like blurry, but you can see enough that, man, it is so magnificent that they say it's unspeakable. And all that really means is that there's no way of ever saying anything or writing anything that can do justice to the magnificence of it. It's beyond words. But it can be known here by the soul, what some people call the heart. It's knowledge that the intellect can't handle. It's a different kind of knowledge. But when the heart knows it, the intellect understands it. When the heart is provoked with knowledge, which is frequencies, they're frequencies coded with knowledge that are everywhere. But when you have your mind set and you're studying something particular that you're trying to figure out, and you're focused on that particular thing, what happens is when we're in that operation of concentrated focus, we will attract energies that and frequencies that deal with that particular subject. And those frequencies, which are everywhere, everything is a frequency anyhow. But I don't want to get into science now. That focused attention attracts frequencies that deal with that focused attention because it's like a mindset. And this is a mind game. Those frequencies enter, as I said in my last video, they first, like they hit the heart, so to speak, and then they're that's the soul. That's hard to explain, but easy to experience, is complemented by everything that comes with it. That coded frequency information is uploaded by us. It's a download, and we upload it. It enters in to every strand of DNA that makes up this physical body. It's fed through the central nervous system. It reaches the brain. This is where the pineal gland comes in. It reaches the brain, and normally high frequency energy, once the frequency reaches the brain, and by their electrical impulses, they take the route of the pineal gland to be fed to our conscious mind, or our sleeping mind. It doesn't really matter. And boom! Problem I was focused on, solved. Some people call that revelation. Revelation isn't receiving information from some angel that's up there waving some magic wand or something. Or from some voice that comes out of thin air. And it isn't received that way. It's frequency. And we pick it up via the DNA. Is that going to make your life any better? Not alone. What it does point out is the benefit of focused attention. It's how we create. So the knowledge is good to know. Is it necessary to know? No. Nothing is necessary to know. And that's a good thing, because most of us don't know much. You know, we can have have a PhD, be a doctorate in applied mathematics. That's good. But that knowledge is useless to esoteric knowledge. Because esoteric knowledge is dealing with things that are beyond our senses, beyond the body, beyond sight, beyond hearing, beyond smelling, taste, or touch, beyond body, beyond brain, beyond mundane thought processes. Esoteric knowledge is beyond all those things. So you can be the best mathematician in the world. Numbers are not actually esoteric. They're not. I said in another video that it's been claimed that mathematics is a universal language. At one level, okay, fine. 2 and 2 is 4 on the earth. 2 and 2 is 4 if you were sitting in the sun. If you were in a rocket ship, no matter where you flew in our galaxy or beyond, to you, to me, 2 and 2 would still equal 4. That's fairly like everyday common knowledge. Esoteric knowledge is not everyday common knowledge. It is not. It's deep, heavy, it's mystical, magical. It's everything the common knowledge, school knowledge is not. And not many people are interested in pursuing the subject of the esoteric and the concepts that it offers. They might dabble a little bit into the spiritual, saying, well, I study the Bible. That's fine. But there's more. I don't like to make claims. Like, say, I know something. I don't know. Even in my mundane life growing up, I was too dumb to brag about knowing much anyhow. But like people who study like the Bible, they get to the last book in the Bible, the last book of the New Testament called Revelations. And biblical scholars ponder that book day in and day out, and hardly any of them agree on what it means, because it is written metaphorically. It uses words that just about everybody knows to explain something that few people know. The book of Revelations was always, as much as I studied the Bible, I mean, it was always like, this is out there, man. It's not that way anymore. I've learned enough going into other avenues of searching beyond the Bible that I'm not going to claim to be a scholar about the book of Revelations, but I understand what it's saying and where it fits in the cycle of us and the earth and the Yuga cycles. Where the humanity was when that book was written 2,000 years ago. And it's still accurate because what's written talks about what's happening right now, 2,000 years later. To have a working knowledge of the four earth yugas reveals that. Man, I can talk a lot, can't I? I'm going to look at my notes here, and we're going to briefly this time. Well, let me say this to you. You can go on the internet and you can Google the word Yuga, Y-U-G-A, and you'll get enough feedback, well, I'm sure you've Googled things. You'll get enough things back that you can study the Yugas from now till the day you leave the body, okay? Because it is a vast subject. Because yugas apply not just to the earth, not just to us, yugas apply to the moon, to Saturn, to Venus, to Mars, to our entire solar system, to the sun. Yugas built into their cycles. The cycles of the galaxy. The cycles of the clusters of galaxies. The cycles of Manvantara and Pralaya. Manifestation and non-manifestation. The principles of yugas are built into those cycles. That's why there are so many components to manifestation and non-manifestation. There are so many components, like, for lack of a better term, moving parts to it, that it can get awfully confusing until something starts to come into focus and you go, oh, and everything starts coming together. But getting back to the 4 Earth Yugas, remember, that's the 4 ages of Earth. We are the Earth. We are a component of the Earth. So these 4 Earth ages apply to us also. Or, well, I'm going to put up a, let me get a pen here. I got to write this down. So when I'm putting together this video, I know where to start. I'm going to put up a very simple diagram that I drew up. That it's very simple, to the point, direct, self-explanatory. Okay? So I'm going to put that up right now. All right, I had to write down 46 minutes and 31 seconds. That's where I'll overlay the diagram for you. And I'm just going to pretend right now that you're looking at it. These are the 4 Earth Yugas, or ages, and they're Vedic calculations. They come out of the Vedas, which is primarily Hindu. Like Hinduism and Buddhism, and they're a lot alike. They all hold the same premise. The only thing that differs between the 2 schools of thought, so to speak, is the customs and the ceremonies. The information's pretty pat across the board in all spiritual disciplines that go beyond the mundane and get deep into the mystical, the esoteric, the occult, the simple word is the spiritual. Okay, so there you are. You know, look, you're looking at this diagram I put out. 4 Earth Yugas, or ages, Vedic calculations. Okay, that's where this information comes from. I trust it. You don't have to trust it. I trust it. The first yuga, the first age, is called Satya Yuga. It's the golden age. It's the age of virtue, enlightenment, enhanced spirituality. It's wonderful. It was wonderful. That lasted 1,728,000 solar years, or mortal years. That's the first yuga. That is where we first entered. Another way to say that is that's where the point of departure from where we came from. I mean, let me back up on that. It's when we started reaching the outer limits, so to speak, of the physical plane of the primary matrix. The primary matrix is the universe. That's the primary matrix. We descended until we reached the outer limits, so to speak, of physicality, where things started being not so etheric, lighter, hardly any density whatsoever. We entered what is called the seventh Earth. I'm going to explain that in a minute. I didn't do such a good job of it the last time. And where we entered that highest level of physicality was at the Satya Yuga, and we had a good time. But then the explorers that we are, source players are explorers. It is our innate function to explore and experience. And we started, rather than staying where we were or heading back up, something we knew was safe, we decided to go ahead and keep the descent going. We spent time in Satya Yuga. Then we went into Treta Yuga, or the Silver Age. In the Treta Yuga, there was 25% of a loss of virtue, enlightenment, spirituality, as compared to Satya Yuga. We lost 25% of our virtue, enlightenment, spirituality, things like that. This yuga lasted for 1,296,000 solar years. during these ages and in these yugas, there's a lot going on. We were by no means idle, but I'm not going to get into that. I just want to get this concept of the yugas, get you interested in it. You can go look it up and study it all you want. It's easy to find. The third yuga is Dvapara Yuga, or the Bronze Age. Here, we had approximately, these are approximations but close, a 50% loss of virtue, enlightenment, spirituality, 50% loss of what we had in Satya Yuga, in the Golden Age. We lost 50% of that. Things are starting to change noticeably. Noticeably. They're getting, from the word that we would use, they're getting worse. Nothing's getting better. We spent in Dvapara Yuga, the Bronze Age, 864,000 years, solar years, mortal years. Then we kept the descent going. We entered what's called the Kali Yuga, the Iron Age. It's the Yuga that we are in now. In Kali Yuga, when we entered it, as we entered Kali Yuga, we came in with a 75% loss of virtue, enlightenment, and spirituality than we had in Satya. Things are getting rough. Kali Yuga is rough. I made a note here. Kali Yuga is the age of full physicality, density. It's the age of fear, especially of the fear of death. Kali Yuga is the age of suffering, hypocrisy, deprecation, atheism, thieving rulers, murder, wars. And along with the fear of death, people live with the fear that when they die, they're not going to exist anymore. We right now, from the sources that I trust, I learned that we are approximately halfway through Kali Yuga. So we got about 215,000 more years to go. And if you think it's bad now, it's going to get worse. I use a metaphor. We're about halfway through Kali Yuga. Okay, we about halfway through it. Things are going to start getting worse than they are now. I'm going to use a metaphor. And I'm going to use women to do this. And women in labor having babies. Now, I don't remember ever being a female and having a baby in some other incarnation or something, you know. But I was there for the birth of my children, and I watched what went on with their mother. She was in pain after her water broke and her contraction started. Pain. She started dilating, got her to the hospital. I watched, you know, I was in the delivery suite, in the operating room, whatever you want to call it. I watched the processes for 3 children of mine. She was in pain. She was suffering, at times screaming, veins popping out of her head, you know, surrounded by people intensely focused. And she had a really, really hard time. Real hard. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about if you're a mother. You know it far better than I know it. I was just watching it and could see, oh. And then the baby delivered. And it's like somebody lit a candle. Everything changed. My wife stopped screaming and squirming and clenching her fists in my hand and, you know, looking at me with scorn. Everything changed. The baby was delivered. And everything got good. And everybody was satisfied. Everybody was happy. I use that as a metaphor. Where we're at right now, in Kali Yuga, at the halfway point, is like a woman whose water just broke. I mean, she's been walking around for 9 months with this, you know, great big belly, awkward, uncomfortable, you know, but her water broke and she knew, uh-oh, it's time. And then the work starts. We are at a point in Kali Yuga right now that's kind of like the water just broke. And now it's going to get hard. It's going to get hard. I would hope that you at least consider what I'm about to say. Just consider that it's accurate. Somewhat. Pretty accurate. If you look around our earth, our world, right now, and if you take the time to look at all the different continents and who populates those continents, the countries, you know, for example, we populate North America. Some people populate Europe. You know, I'm saying stuff I don't need to. If you look around and observe all that, especially if you live in America, which I suppose most of you do, I don't know that. But in America, things are getting pretty wild. I mean, wild beyond the point of World War II or Korea or Vietnam or Iraq, which was bad enough. War is hell, it's bad. But there's another kind of change that's happening. It's like the world's going crazy. Madness. Things that are hard to watch and even harder to understand. People can't figure out. Young people, and up, they can't figure out if they're a boy or a girl, what they want to be and what they, you know, should they make a choice, should they change what they are, you know, these sex change operations and this and that. In school, it's as though that the ABCs, math, reading, history, stuff like that is secondary to a focus on race relations. Okay? And equity, equality, so on and so forth. I'm sure, you know, if you're a younger person, you're familiar with all of this. If you're an old man like I am, I understand it. Do I like it? I don't see where it's beneficial. I'll put it that way. I don't judge it. Take the middle way. I understand what's going on this side of the road, but I also understand where it's going to lead to on this side of the road, and I just walk between them. It's called the middle way. Buddha taught that, the middle way. But anyhow, our institutes of higher learning, colleges, are teaching ideologies that make no sense to me. It makes sense to them, I guess, but it doesn't to me. I'm not judging that. I just see it. I see what's happening. In preschool, first grade, second grade, toddlers, they're being introduced to concepts that they have no business, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. That's all. They're being introduced to concepts that, in my opinion, have no business being in their reality for 16, 17, 18 more years before. People would say, I'm old. You just don't get it. You're old man. You just don't get it. I get it. I don't judge it. I don't have to like it. But I see it as what is. What is what is. I see the corporations and their ideologies, how they're starting to grow more powerful, becoming more centralized. I'm watching the book of Revelations happening. Some of it. Just some of it. I look at our medical institutions. There's a lot of moving parts going on in our world right now that are new to us. They're things I've never seen in my decades growing up until about when I really started noticing it. About 4 years ago, I said, hey, that's kind of new. A lot of what's happening in our societies all over the world is kind of new. War is old hat. We're accustomed to war. It's ugly, yes. People die, yes. War is nothing that anybody wants to really experience. Well, not most people. There are some who do. But some of the things that are happening now they're strange. They're new. And if you step back from all of that, you start to see that there is a direction to what's new that is added to what's old. It's all working together. And altogether, it's pushing forward. During Kali Yuga, it's pushing forward to, and this is my opinion, hard times globally, possible nuclear war, famine, water will be worth more than gold. It's going to get really rough. I don't want to keep talking about that. Things are going to get really rough. We're going to reach a point where there's a thing called the culling. Now, I'm not going to talk about the culling. C-U-L-L-I-N-G. Look it up for yourself. It's going to happen amongst us Earth residents. If you want to understand it a little bit better, go online, look up the Georgia Guide Stones. Is that it? Yeah. The Georgia Guide Stones. It's all about an ideology, a vision of what's going to happen in the near future. They're not old, these Georgia Guidestones. They're not all that old. Maybe 25, 30 years at the most. They were put up by, nobody knows who put them up. Nobody knows who carved them. Nobody knows. They are stone. They look like Stonehenge almost. But nobody knows who put them up. But it's all listed there. And part of it is the culling. Somebody going through humanity and to whomever, for whatever reason, to thin out humanity. Now, this isn't going to happen in the next 2 or 3 years. It'll take longer than that, maybe a few decades, 2, 3, maybe 4. But it's going to... Christians, for example, are looking for the second coming of Christ to save the earth. I don't know if the Buddhists are waiting for a savior like that, but, I know the Christians are. Okay? It says that Christ comes back out of the dimension that he inhabits right now, comes back and has to intervene. He comes back with an army and has to intervene what's going on and stop it, or nothing will remain. Nothing. Then after that, when things quiet down, when the dust settles and the smoke clears, humanity is going to have to gather itself together. Have a displacement and rearrangement of their mental processes. And they're going to have to start seeing what we call life from another perspective, and slowly walk out of Kali Yuga. Now, that point at which the smoke clears and the dust settles, that starts an ascent. Humanity starts to ascend. At the end of the 432,000 years, we will bypass, so to speak, the Dvapara Yuga and the Treta Yuga and walk in to another Satya Yuga, another golden age. So we are, after almost the annihilation of the earth itself and everything that lives on it, after that's over and the dust settles, we start an ascent. And we end up in a higher dimension. Far higher than our third dimension. For earthlings, native to the earth. I don't know. I'm seeing we end up in the seventh dimension, which would be virtue, enlightenment, spirituality. I mean, like no death, no birth, none of that stuff. Just totally different. We came through it. We understand it. We don't remember it, but we're going back there. And let me throw this in. I'm just going to mention this right now. On Earth now, we are the Aryan race. That doesn't mean white skin. It means everybody on the earth right now are well, most people. There are some exceptions. That's another story. I'm not getting into that right now. Most people, we are of the fifth root race. It's called the Aryan race. I'm just going to leave that right there. But there's something else I want to touch on that may be confusing. I said in my last video that the earth that we inhabit now is referred to as the fourth earth. There is a fifth earth. It's far more, it's far less dense than our full-blown physicality. It's better. This fifth earth is not somewhere else apart from this third dimensional earth. They both occupy the same space at the same time. Imagine like people say they see ghosts. Well, those ghosts are in another dimension. They're not in this dimension. But it's something. Not that the fifth dimension is ghosts. I'm not trying to say that. The fifth earth is a better earth. It occupies the same space as our earth, the fourth earth, at the same time. We just can't see it. But they can see us. There is also a sixth earth. It's a higher frequency earth than the fifth earth. And it occupies the same time and the same space as this, our fourth earth. It's better. It's more advanced. The beings there are more, they're more advanced souls than we are. Then there's a seventh earth, which occupies the same time and the same space as this, the fourth earth. It's just in a far higher dimension. I'd like to say the seventh dimension, but I'm not absolutely sure about that. But it's like Satya Yuga, 365 a year, okay? I said that because in my last video, one of the things that I picked up when I was watching it was when I said that there are, like, we're the fourth Earth and there's a seventh Earth, that people might get in this inner vision that the fourth Earth and the seventh Earth are in different places. No. Same time, same space, different frequency levels. The people that occupy the worlds, the Earths, that are above our three-dimensional Earth, in the fifth Earth, they're at least fifth-dimensional beings. They're more evolved. They're of a higher frequency. There's no pain and suffering like we know it. There's no death. That's called a planetary chain. Itself is a planetary change is complex to explain. I just got done explaining some of it, how it works. The fifth, sixth, the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh Earth are all in the same spot, same space, at the same time. The seventh Earth souls can see all the way down to us. The sixth dimensional souls can see all the way down to us, but they cannot see the seventh dimension people. Now, every planet in the universe that is inhabited by souls, beings, their planet goes through these same yugas. We go through this whole yuga cycle, the whole round, 7 times. Look, I'm telling you, there's so much information about this that it's kind of stupid for me to try to teach it to you. You ought to go Google the word yugas and take it from there. Google the word planetary chain and take it from there. See where it takes you. Okay, my video is getting a bit long here. I'm going to cut this off, but I'm going to do something that's... I have my reason for not doing it, but... I said in one of my earlier videos, and I probably said it more than one time throughout my videos, that over the course of my life, okay, and let's just look at things simple. I'm 74 years old. But from the time that I was a little boy, curiosity poked up. And from the time that I was 18, starting at 18, I had an experience, I can't explain it, but I got very serious about spirituality. And I've been plowing away at it since, because I can't imagine why anybody would not. I don't judge those that don't. That's their business, not mine. Nothing they do is going to affect me. When our Earth is going through cullings and stuff and things are getting really bad, those things are going to pass me up. It has to do with frequency, your reality, and how you see things. But I don't want to go there. There is so much I could say about yugas and planetary change and things like that, and talking about things that are like in 300 plus trillion years of things, and talking about universal manifestations and periods of non-manifestations and these cycles. I could do all of that, but like I said, it would take me so many videos to spit it all out that it would be much better for you to study these things on your own. It's how you expand your mind. And once it gets expanded a little bit and you start picking up information, it expands some more, and some more. You understand what you are, not who you are, what's going on. It would, if you're interested in these things, you wouldn't be listening to me if you weren't, number one. I gave this some thought. Okay, often I say, well, let me put it this way. In all my years of studying, I found a single point of reference that incorporates all the history, world history of spiritual systems. And before that, long after that, it's like the entire picture. It's very, very, very difficult reading. It is. It ain't anything you can read. It's got to be studied. Studied. Get out your highlighter. Believe me. Write in the margins. Get a tablet. Because when you get into this, you're going to find out that there is a lot to know that I can't put it on here. It's too much. I'm going to give you a reference. It's a set of 2 books, two volumes, thick ones, written by a woman. Her name is H.P., initials H.P., last name Blavatsky. H.P. Blavatsky. B-L-A-V-A-T-S-K-Y. H.P. Blavatsky. It's called The Secret Doctrine. It's 2 volumes. It's about cosmogenesis and everything else you can, it's deep. It's where I get some information from. It's also where I check information that is like downloaded to me to see if I can find that in there, okay? But it's like a synthesis of all the esoteric type of systems that ever existed and that will exist and exists now. You can buy this, I believe, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but you can buy this 2-volume set called The Secret Doctrine by H.P. Blavatsky on Amazon. I think it cost you like 25 or 30 bucks. But what a good investment. What a good investment. If I were to say, go read the Vedas, well, there's thousands of volumes of the Vedas. I'm talking about 2 volumes. Pretty thick volumes, okay? 25 bucks. That explains all this stuff we've been talking about, which is cosmology, actually, is what it is. The Earth Yugas and this and that. I don't want to have to get into the nuts and bolts of all these types of things. Where I want to go is like in the next video, talk about how the Earth and the other planets of our solar system and the sun itself, how they ascend. Individually, one maybe at one point, another at the other point, another one at the other point, but they all, when all the planets are done and the sun's done, the solar system ascends. I want to talk about things like that. In the new age thing that's happening, okay? People were always talking about a 5th dimensional Earth. When is the Earth going to ascend? When are we going to ascend? They're right a little bit in theory, but the New Agers only go so far. We're going well beyond that. I want to talk about ascension, both personal, so to speak, and of the Earth, and of you. What that means, I want to talk about what happens at the point that this mortal body can no longer function, and the next thing you know, we're out of it. I want to talk about what happens before, during, and after death. I want to talk about those things. What I don't want to talk about is numbers. I don't like numbers. And planetary chains and yugas and even Manvantara and Pralaya, they're all associated with time and the length of time in numbers. I am of the opinion that if an overall vision of all this starts coming into view for you, that's far more, that concept is far more important than the numbers associated with it. Let me say something about concepts. When I get, all right, I'll divulge this about myself. When I get a download of information, which is frequency that's hitting the antenna component of the crystalline component of my DNA, and boom, I don't hear words, or I see a concept. I can never explain to you, unless it's happened to you, you know what I'm talking about. I can't explain to you what I see, but what it is, it's the entire concept, and the entire concept is understood. It's like the concept of the 4 earth ages. I saw the concept when I started saying, oh, okay, I get what they're saying, and then boom, there'd be something added to that, and I understood the 7 rounds of the 4 yugas and why they are. All right, I'm at 1 hour and 40 minutes. That is entirely too long for me to be beating your ear. If you're still with me this long, thank you. H.P. Blavatsky, The Secret Doctrine, 2 volumes. Find it on Amazon, $25, $30. You won't be sorry. Unless you never study it. Then you'll have wasted $25 or $30. The last thing I want to say is this. To put things into perspective. A manifestation of anything, but we'll say the manifestation of the universe happens when universal mind goes to sleep and dreams. If universal mind were to wake up, as a whole, if it were to wake up at one time, the universe would vanish. Like that. That period of the sleeping universal mind, okay, for that mind, that is pralaya. Just the opposite of how we would think it would be. When it's asleep, there's a manifest universe because it's dreamed. When universal mind wakes up as a whole, if it were to wake up as a whole, that dreamed universe, gone. Gone. The dream would end. We would, if we were there, there would be nothing there, but if we were there to perceive the end of the universe, we would call that a pralaya. And actually, no universe equals universal mind awake, and with the universe equals universal mind asleep. We go through this every day of our lives. As above, so below. As below, so above. If you want to understand Manvantara and Pralaya, manifestation and non-manifestation, look at your own sleep cycles. You have what we call the waking state, the dream state, REM, deep sleep, deep sleep. In REM there are dreams. In deep sleep there's nothing. Awareness is there in deep sleep, but there's nothing to be aware of. You don't remember deep sleep, though we crave it. And then the mind starts waking up again. You might have another dream or two, and then pop, we're into the waking state. The entire universe does that. Its cycle is not like ours. It isn't like sleep 8 hours in bed. It's 311 trillion plus years. One cycle. A universe, manifestation, no manifestation. As above, so below. Look at your sleep cycle. The universe does the same thing. Once this all starts coming into view for you, you can see the simplicity in all the complexity. And it's magnificent. Would this make your life any better? Absolutely. Why? Because to make your life better, we need to raise our frequency. You cannot raise your frequency if you're running around the streets all day, jumping up and down on the roofs of cars or some stupid shit like that. That's not how you raise your frequency. Your frequency is codependent on the content of the mind. So you got to expand your mind to raise your frequency. It isn't complicated. But how do you expand your mind? Grab that secret doctrine. Start studying it. You'll have to, because you can't read it. You got to study it. It's complex. It's beautifully done. What a synthesis of worldwide mystical, occult, spiritual, esoteric, call it what you want, knowledge. It's a wonderful synthesis. And if you get into it, your mind will expand, your frequency will raise, and Kali Yuga, you'll breeze through it. Many will not. Many. That's not a hit on them. It's a congratulations to you if you were to take my advice. I thought this was going to be one of my shorter videos, and it's turned out to be one of my longer ones. And I don't mean to sound like a preacher, but there's no need for you to spend over 50 years of your life searching for something that can be found in the book I suggest you buy from Amazon. It won't all come at once. It comes in pieces, a little bit here and a little bit there, line upon line, brick upon brick, until things start boom, 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 and it's just so magnificent. And it's in my next video, I'll get into the concept of eternity and the primary matrix and how this ties into all things, what the primary matrix is, what it's there for, why we even built it, why we created a universe. I want to get into all those things. But in order for them to be fully grasped, you have to understand that cycles, everything works according to cycles, according to appearance and non-appearance. Plus, I apologize for being so long. I do. I'm speaking from my heart. I want our lives to improve and get good, and I don't want to get cut asunder by some idiotic world ideology that's stupid. But its source with universal mind and thought, there's automatically duality. Call it good and evil. And source, universal mind, is beyond approachable in imagination, and how good can manifest and evil manifests equally, and things stay in balance. There's a balance to everything. Jeez, man, what's with me? Why don't I just shut up? Okay, listen, thank you again. I appreciate it. I'll see you. Or I'll make another video when I make another video, and I don't exactly know what it's going to be about right just yet. I've said a lot in this video. Take me up on my Amazon suggestion. Do that for yourself. You won't be sorry. If you don't do it, you reap what you sow. It's that simple. All right. Have a good experience. Enjoy the dream. Till next time. Bye.